Once again, gasoline stockpiles are falling to alarmingly low levels ahead of the busiest driving season of the year. And that is the perfect recipe for a massive spike in prices over the next few weeks and months, experts say. The increases will come on top of the 20% rise in the cost of a gallon of gas seen over the past 30 days. The outlook is quite worrying, considering that almost 60% of Americans are struggling to afford prices at the pump, according to a new poll. Production is way down, and several factors are adding extra pressure to the oil market right now, signaling more trouble for the U.S. businesses and consumers this summer. We have a lot to cover today, but before moving on, we kindly ask you to support our work with a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our upcoming videos. Analysts are warning that U.S. motorists will face a repeat of last summer's high gasoline prices because fuel stockpiles are heading towards multi-year lows ahead of the peak summer driving season that starts in a couple of months. Retail gasoline prices, now averaging $3.60 a gallon nationwide, hit a record $5.02 a gallon last June as crude oil prices jumped due to dwindling inventories. In the past month, the cost of a gallon of gas rose on average by 20 cents, with some U.S. counties reporting a 36-cent increase, AAA data shows. At the same time, vehicle travel in the U.S. remains 5.6% higher than last year, which resulted in a drop in gasoline stockpiles for 5 straight weeks. In fact, Reuters reports that last week's 6 million barrel drawdown was the biggest since September 2021, leaving national gas inventories at 229.6 million barrels, their lowest for this time of the year since 2015, according to weekly government data. We are in danger of going below 200 million barrels of gasoline storage for the first time in many years, stressed Robert Yorga, Director of Energy Futures at Mizuho. The combination of rising travel and declining inventories are going to lift retail prices again, said Yorga, with the potential for a new record high this summer. If refining margins continue their recent jump, it's going to put upward pressure on the refined products prices, particularly on gasoline, added John Kilduff, an energy trading and commodities expert at Again Capital. Part of the surge can be attributed to spring maintenance at major U.S. refineries, which has significantly reduced processing capacity following winter storm shutdowns at the end of last year. On top of that, several refiners have also prioritized making diesel over gasoline to meet demand from Europe, where sanctions on Russian oil and strikes in France have limited distillate flows into the region, explains Brayton Tom, Regional Director for Energy at financial services firm StoneX. On Monday, the U.S. price of oil rose 6%, after OPEC announced plans to sharply cut production starting in May. The organization informed that it will slash oil production by more than 1 million barrels a day starting next month, a move that experts say could seriously impact gas prices in the U.S. The oil-producing alliance, which includes Saudi Arabia, Russia, and Iran, revealed that it will reduce its overall output by 1.2 million barrels from May 1st through to the end of 2023. The news came right after Russia revealed it would decrease production by 500,000 barrels a day. To make things even more complicated, in March, U.S. oil production plummeted as a result of the banking crisis and concerns about an economic recession that would reduce fuel demand. All of these factors weighing on the outlook for prices this summer. I certainly think there's going to be upward pressure on gasoline prices as a result of these production cuts, said Gas Buddy petroleum analyst Patrick DeHaan. They're also being pulled up not only due to continued increases in demand as temperatures warm, but also pressure from oil prices, which have risen over 20% in the last month, DeHaan continued. Expect the upward trend to continue through much of the rest of the year, he alerts. Previously, the expert stated that 2023 would be an expensive year for U.S. motorists. The national average could breach $4 a gallon as early as May, and higher costs will persist through much of the summer driving season. On Twitter, DeHaan forecasted that the production slowdown would cause oil prices to rise by $6 a barrel. At the pump, this could be translated into another 20-cent rise per gallon next week. On the same note, Peter McNally, an industrial materials and energy expert for Third Bridge, predicts a steeper increase closer to 30 cents per gallon. That's right, gas prices could reach $4 a gallon before the end of April. The gloomiest forecast, however, came from the U.S. Department of Energy. In its monthly outlook report for April, the agency revised its estimate for the price of Brent crude oil, the global benchmark, higher by 2.5% from the March report to $85 per barrel on average for 2023. As the price of oil accounts for the bulk of what consumers see at the pump, EIA raised its forecast for the increase in the retail of gasoline price from 36 cents per gallon in its last estimate to 42 cents per gallon, meaning that the national average can hit even higher levels than experts think. The situation is raising many red flags across the industry and worsening the outlook for businesses and consumers alike, one inside source told Fox News. With the outlook for oil and gas rapidly deteriorating, the CEO claims he sees storm clouds on the horizon, especially because the U.S. government has missed the chance to refill domestic stockpiles when prices were lower, he says. We've got a high oil price, and yet we're seeing production lower than it was during the Trump administration, lower than it was pre-COVID, Canary CEO Dan Eberhard highlighted in a recent interview. The train has left the station with the Saudis and OPEC cutting production, and the Biden administration missed a kind of a golden window when oil prices were hovering between 60 to 70 to replenish the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve, he continued. Instead of buying more crude oil when prices were affordable, the Biden administration has continued to sell its inventory. In February, after selling another 26 million barrels, Biden brought the reserve to its lowest level since 1983. I can't stress enough how missing the window to replace the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is just really bad for our national security and really bad for consumers. The administration has left us completely unprepared, Eberhard lamented. If you go back and look at what Google said a year ago, the CEO described, the Biden administration said, look, when oil goes below $80, when oil's in the 70s, we're going to replenish in 2023. But when oil was low in the 60s, the administration did nothing. For that reason, Eberhard argues that the government's oil policy is what is ultimately fueling the price surges we will see until the end of this year. They had an excellent opportunity when the price was somewhat low, and they didn't act, he reiterated. It seems to me that we definitely have a Goldilocks scenario for oil exiting 2023 at $100 a barrel or higher. I think that's inevitable at this point. Moreover, other decisions made by the administration have further complicated oil drilling in America and therefore compromised our ability to raise production levels and replenish the national inventory. Biden has slowed down pipelines, has canceled the Keystone Pipeline and others, has canceled the offshore lease program for 4 new drilling sites, and it's just made it very, very difficult to drill, and just continues to throw wrenches and sand in the gears of the oil industry, the CEO outlined. Our production, our drilling, is not what it once was, Eberhard also explained. The rig count is also lower, and this is all just constraining supply, and it's silently sowing the seeds for the next oil price spike, which will be disastrous for consumers, for businesses, and the economy. Given that demand increased slightly from 9.15 to 9.3 million barrels a day, according to new data from the Energy Information Administration. This means that we're only holding 21 days of supply on our domestic reserves. That's extremely tight. Meanwhile, Americans are doing what they can to get by, and that often means cutting back on spending. The latest Monmouth University poll, released last Thursday, found that a majority, 58%, say it's difficult to afford gas right now. Since December, the number of people who have had difficulty paying for gasoline has increased by 10 points, the poll results showed. It's really kind of tough because you want to have everything provided, but everything is so high, one respondent said. Another added, "I'm dipping in savings so that I can live." The Washington Post exposed that in some regions, gas prices are so high that more drivers can't afford to fill their tanks, often leaving them stranded on the road. Out-of-gas calls for roadside assistance in March rose 41% compared to a year ago. In the first 3 months of this year, more than 250,000 drivers have been stranded. For some cars, that means drivers must pay more than $120 each time they fill up their tanks all the way to the top. That's too much for an increasing number of motorists. A Washington Post school poll found that 44% of U.S. drivers said they only partially filled their gas tanks in the past month. And for drivers earning less than $50,000 a year, the share climbed to 61%. Marty Durbin, the president of the Chamber of Commerce's Global Energy Institute, says that Americans should prepare for a reality of higher gas prices both in the short and the longer term due to the combination of multiple trends. Consumers and businesses should be bracing for even more pressure as refinery closures and production disruptions force supply lower worldwide, Durbin noted. Simultaneously, as U.S. consumers tighten their belts and close their pocketbooks, it puts even more downward pressure on the economy, making the odds of a deep recession even higher. Retail sales have been on a consistent decline. Last month, the auto sector faced a 4% drop in car sales. Soaring fuel costs will likely be translated into higher prices in our stores and, consequently, higher inflation. One thing everyone seems to agree on at this point is that there will be no easy way out of this economic mess. This supply and demand imbalance is going to hit crisis levels this summer, and you shouldn't be surprised if fuel shortages come back too, turning the outlook from worrying to downright terrifying in a few short months. How is this all affecting you? We look forward to reading your comments under this video, and thank you for watching.